What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Chill, where every single week I, Graham Jason Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network. Today we're talking the latest edition of WWE 365, featuring none other than Alexa Bliss. This episode aired after Stomping Grounds last night as of this recording. Didn't have a chance to watch it after the pay-per-view, which was actually pretty damn good, by the way. Cheap plug, if you want to check out my full review of the pay-per-view, you can do so on nextairwrestling.net. Turned out to be a much better pay-per-view than I thought it would be. But yeah, 365, excellent as always. If you haven't already, check out my previous episodes, my previous reviews of the other two episodes of WWE 365 on AJ Styles and Kevin Owens from 2017 and 2018, respectively. So to kick off this episode, we had the background of Alexa Bliss in WWE Spotlighted, with the narrator, that being Maria Menounos, talking about Alexa Bliss's time, an underwhelming stint, as she called it, an NXT, where she never was on a takeover, wrestled on a takeover, I guess I should say, wrestled on a takeover, competed for a championship, none of that stuff. She was a glorified manager valet for Buddy and Murphy. The NXT tag team, Buddy and Murphy, Blake and Murphy, the NXT tag team champions at that point, and then being called up to the main roster in the summer of 2016 in the WWE supplemental draft, the online draft, whatever. She was one of the final picks, if I remember correctly. Got called up to SmackDown Live, almost immediately won gold within months, became a multi-time WWE SmackDown and Raw Women's Champion. And that brings us to day one of this 365 at WrestleMania 34 in New Orleans. Where she walked in as the Raw Women's Champion for her match against Nia Jax. So yeah, day one, WrestleMania 34. She talks about how she does a lot more media now as champion. Being champion is great and all, but you have to go out and do all the media, especially around WrestleMania time, where you're doing the shows, the interviews, everything. Autograph signings. You are doing all the appearances. No matter what championship you hold, with the exception of maybe like the fucking 24/7 title. I'm talking like, all the women's titles, maybe the tag titles, I guess, are the exception too. But for the most part, almost all the champions do all the appearances leading up to WrestleMania. And just, year round, you're doing way more media and way more appearances than everyone else because of the, not pressure put on you, but the importance that you have as a champion in WWE. So she gets ready for her WrestleMania entrance before the show, the day of the show, the night before the show. The year before for WrestleMania 33, she just kind of simply walked down to the ring, and it was a cool entrance. I was there for WrestleMania 33. She was the SmackDown Women's Champion at the time, but it was a 5-minute match. They didn't really give anyone a notable entrance, aside from maybe Naomi, who kind of glowed in the dark and did that whole thing. For this, though, she was, put on a pedestal, literally, coming down to the ring, like Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 25, which was super cool. And now she had way more emphasis put on her entrance this year compared to the year prior. And she was also told by Mr. McMahon, who was all over this episode of 365, by the way. I don't know if he definitely was not in this much of the Kevin Owens and AJ 365 documentaries. But he was all over this one at various points. He's talking to Alexa Bliss, which is cool and all, and he comes across as very genuine, very nice, but like, you compare that to the Kevin Owens one from 2 years ago, when they show Kevin Owens after his WrestleMania 33 match, and he goes up to Vince to get his thoughts, and Vince goes, basically, it was shit. Your match with Jericho sucked. Even though it was a pretty good match, I just thought that was hilarious. But here he's like, oh, you're great, love your entrance, blah, blah, blah. But he told Alexa Bliss here, you got to show off your mean face when you come down to the ring. Now, Alexa Bliss is a very nice person from what it seems like outside of the ring. She's very nice, very down to earth. So it's kind of a transformation for her to kind of go out there and be a bitch the way that she is every single week on WWE TV. So he tells her to show off her mean face during her entrance at WrestleMania. Alexa Bliss says that her story with Nia Jax has been her favorite so far in WWE because of how real it's been. They were and still are very good friends to this day. So that's one element of it. But not only that, but the story they were telling going into the show, I thought was very well done. I thought Nia Jax came across as a great baby face for the short time she was a face in early 2018, probably the first half of that year. They were telling the whole weight story. Oh, Nia, you're too fat, blah, blah, blah. But it resonated with Alexa Bliss as well because obviously Nia dealt with those issues growing up. But with Alexa Bliss specifically, she also had a lot of, health issues with her weight and stuff like that growing up to the point where she almost died. And I'll talk more about that in a moment, but I think anyone who knows Alexa Bliss's story is well aware of the fact that she has struggled with anorexia and stuff like that growing up before she ever came to WWE. So this story hit home for her too. So it was a really cool story for them to tell going into WrestleMania. And it wasn't like the whole Piggy James shit from a decade ago where they did that to just spite Mickie James because there were, not that there was heat on Mickie, but they more or less wanted to bully her on her way out of the company before she ended up getting released months later. They were not trying to bully Nia Jax, management that is. They were just trying to tell a story they felt fans would, relate to, and it did. I thought it was a great story and a good match. Alexa Bliss said to see Nia holding up that championship and to know what she's been through to get to this point was awesome because obviously they're very good friends. Only a few days short of WrestleMania, or coming out of WrestleMania, day 5 on this 365-day journey, she's in Columbus, Ohio, near where she lives, getting implants. Now, this was rumored back at the time in April of 2018. She already had implants. She revealed here that she's had implants, breast implants, since age 17, which is unfucking believable. But she ends up turning into a positive here. I thought that was like, holy shit, that's crazy. But people were like, oh, she's getting a boob job. Like, she already had a boob job 10 years ago. So this is nothing new, I guess. From what I found out here, from what Alexa Bliss said, you have to change them out every 10 years. I mean, some of the women's wrestlers have ruptures and stuff like that. I know Mickie James did at one point years ago. Charlotte Flair did about a year ago. That was a different story. I think Alexa Bliss didn't really have an issue with her implants. They just had to be changed out. But anyway, she said that she had implants since age 17, which is crazy. But she tells the story of how, again, going back to the anorexia thing, she got down at one point when she was younger, 85 pounds. And she almost died. She would ask doctors, am I going to die? And they didn't have an answer for her because they didn't fucking know because she was that unhealthy at that point. And it became a mental disorder too. She thought she looked like a 7-year-old boy. And she actually credits the implant surgery, the boob surgery, in helping her get over her eating disorder, which is really cool. And I guess, during the process, her friend asked her who was there through thick and thin. We see her a little later on in the episode of 365 here. Her friend Erin asked Alexa, like, if you think you look ugly, then what am I to you? And that really shook up Alexa's world to the point where she knew that she had to get better, not only for herself, but for her friend Erin too, to think, to make her realize that she's beautiful too, that she has nothing wrong with her, and that her issues should not, carry over to Erin. So she got better for herself, for Erin, and the, implant surgery helped with that. So that was apparently a big positive for Alexa, which is cool to hear. But anyway, we fast forward to day 71, Money in the Bank in Chicago, which I was at. Great show. We hear Lights by Moonshine playing at this point. So Alexa Bliss that night not only won the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, she cashed in the contract later on in the show to become the new Raw Women's Champion by beating Nia Jax after her match with Ronda Rousey. And as cool of a moment as that was for Alexa, her friend Erin, who I just got done talking about, was there to see her win it. And they're not from Chicago. They must have flown, drove out, whatever. I don't know how close Ohio is to Illinois. Honestly, I have no fucking clue. I really don't. I'm an idiot in that respect. But yeah, she was there to see it, which was awesome. And not only that, so we see Alexa Bliss talking to Vince backstage after the match. And she was like, oh, my friend was here to see it. And he's like, oh, that's cool, that's cool. And then she revealed that her friend Erin, who was there to see her win the title, had multiple brain tumors coming out of college, and that this marked her 2-year anniversary of being brain tumor free. And Vince was like, holy shit, that's crazy. And Vince even said, like, sometimes we don't realize the things that we do impact other people in a positive way. And I guess in a negative way too, but mostly in a positive way. And she was like, yeah, that is absolutely accurate, and that's 100% what happened here, and it's really cool to see. So they celebrate. They went out in Chicago, had a great night on the town, got tattoos together, which was cool to see. Alexa Bliss got the coordinates of not Disney, but Cinderella's castle, I believe, in Disney World, if I'm not mistaken, tattooed on her arm. I don't know what her friend got. Maybe they got the same thing, I don't know, but I thought that was cool. We fast forward now to day 109, Grove City, Ohio. This is where she, I think, actually grew up, Grove City. It's alumni weekend, and she sees everyone that she hasn't seen in like 5 to 10 years, and she says, nothing has changed. She has a great weekend at home. We fast forward then to day 134, SummerSlam weekend. She finds out that day, the night before, whatever, while she's in makeup, that she's facing Trish Stratus at Evolution, only a few short months after this. And she goes, holy shit, like, that'd be cool to say, like, oh, that's only a fan match. And then she finds out from WWE's Twitter that she's actually having the match. So she was never told ahead of time. She actually found out on social media that she'd be facing Trish Stratus at Evolution, which is super cool. But she has to put that to the side. She's facing Ronda Rousey at SummerSlam for the Raw Women's Championship. She walks into the show with the title. Doesn't really walk out with the championship that night, but it was a fine match for what it was. She felt the pressure, but, she delivered. And then she sets her sights on Evolution, which she was actually the first person advertised for that show, in addition to Trish. Her and Trish, that was the first match set in stone for that pay-per-view, which was cool. So that becomes the next thing that she starts to focus on. However, on Raw, day 142, she interrupts Trish on Raw, which was cool. Day 162, it's Hell in the Cell pay-per-view. She faces Ronda Rousey in a rematch for the Raw Women's Championship. Comes up short. During the course of the contest, Ronda Rousey, I think it was like a headlock takedown, if I'm not mistaken, and Alexa Bliss gets concussed on that. So she gets concussed. She gets a massive headache after the show. She goes up to the doctors the next day and is like, I think there's something wrong here. My head is still hurting. She takes an impact test, fails it miserably, and then she realizes, okay, I'm concussed. They figure out that she's concussed. Vince gives her time off. She wants to get better by Evolution a month later, obviously. Day 183, she did a concussion protocol at the PC. Like typical stuff, getting back in the ring, taking bumps, doing the standard rolls. She was out of the ring for about a month. She gets back in the ring right before Evolution. This was the weekend before Evolution. Day 196, it's a live event that I was also at in Hartford. I was at this show. I remember the match very clearly. I think I might have footage of the match here on the channel. If I don't, I have entrance. I've definitely footage of the entrance of Ronda Rousey. But anyway, it's a tag team match. It's her and Mickey versus, I think, Nia and Ronda, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure it was Ronda and Mickey versus, or rather Ronda and Nia versus Mickey and Alexa. So during the course of the match, I think Ronda slipped, or Alexa slipped. Someone slipped, and they kind of botched the move. She gets concussed again. And then they realize, okay, this is pretty bad. Nia helped her out tremendously. She was the one who said, listen, we got to call your mom, let her know what's going on. I'll take care of you. You could sleep in my place, blah, blah, blah. The pay-per-view's a week later. They played it by ear, but it's the day before the show. She finds out she's not clear to be in the match. The day before the pay-per-view, and that's very heartbreaking for her. And she expresses that here, but you can only imagine how more disappointed she was in reality at that point to find out, okay, my dream match is not coming to fruition, and that really sucks. And that was the match that she was always looking forward to the most. She realized, or she knew from the moment she came into WWE years ago, that was the match she wanted to have, was with Trish Stratus. And as of this recording, almost a year later, we have yet to get it, even though Alexa Bliss has been cleared to compete for months now. Hopefully at some point we can, and we will. Not to say that it'd be a great match, but for Alexa's sake, she got fucked over here. It's not a hard thing to go back and book the match. Maybe for Evolution 2, if we get Evolution 2, and fingers crossed we do, a little later on this year. But anyway, so from that point forward, it's just not going well for Alexa. Day 37, she gives an update on her progress. It just keeps getting derailed. Every single chance she gets, every single glimmer of hope that she has that she'd be able to get back in the ring, she's told, you're not ready yet, stay out of the ring. She doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't really feel like she's making any progress, that she's getting any better, that her brain's getting any better, her head's getting any better. She didn't know the process would be that long. She's glad that it took that long because it's a very serious issue. Your brain is the only brain that you have. You can repair broken bones and stuff like that. Your brain is not really something that can be repaired for the most part. So she didn't know the process would be that long, but she was happy that the company took care of her. She thought her career was over at one point. She thought she was never getting back in the ring because she spent months out of the ring, like close to 6 months. Okay, maybe like 3 or 4 months out of the ring. Day 246, same thing. Gives an update via webcam, no real progress. Day 252, she's in Orlando. I think it's December. She's, working out. I think she has maybe a second home. I think that's where she lives in Orlando. I know that's where she's from is Ohio, but she probably lives in Orlando because of NXT and whatnot. It's around Christmas time. She's, at the PC working out. But she's home, though, at this point, and she talks about how Vince has supported her throughout the entire process, saying, take as much time off as you need to get better. We're here for you. And her mom specifically was very happy that WWE went above and beyond in taking care of Alexa Bliss. And this is where Alexa Bliss, praises WWE. Their medical team, their medical staff, which I'm sure they wanted to include here because the whole CM Punk thing years ago and how he trashed their medical team and how, incompetent they were, as CM Punk claimed. So I'm sure that, WWE was very happy to get some, nice words, some kind words here from Alexa Bliss and her mom about how, how gracious and how nice and how comforting and how, everything that they've done for Alexa Bliss to help her get better. They went above and beyond, she said, to make sure that Alexa Bliss got better. And I'm sure they did, and that's awesome. But it's funny because you hear all these accounts from, specifically CM Punk and a few other people, about how their medical team is just, they don't know what they're doing. But I guess it's good to hear stuff like this, even though Alexa Bliss is in the company and you wouldn't really expect her to say otherwise. Anyway, so she discusses decorating for Christmas with her mom. She loves being home. She's way more of a homebody than she is going out and partying and stuff like that. She talks about her pets. I think she has 3 dogs and the pig, Larry Steve, who we were introduced to on Total Divas years ago. I forgot where the Steve came from. The Larry part comes from Impractical Jokers, which is cool. So, we're introduced to Larry Steve here on WWE 365. Day 253, she works out at the PC. Again, they're in Orlando anyway. She sees Fandango there, Braun Strowman. Day 275, also in Orlando, about, 2-3 weeks later. It's the first Raw of 2019. But not only that, it's the debut of Moment of Bliss. Now, I have not been too kind to Moment of Bliss in my reviews of Raw over the last number of months. I just don't, and it's not her fault, I just don't think it's a very good talk show. And it's not her fault, it's just the writing of the fucking promos. A lot of these segments are very throwaway. The one that she did with Bayley, I will say, last week on SmackDown was excellent. I thought that was one of the better Moment of Bliss segments I've ever seen since it debuted earlier this year. But, I thought, I agree with her, it's a good way to keep her on TV. It helps develop her character. She's a great talker. It's just the formatting and the writing of these segments. And it's probably not even the writer's fault. It's probably Vince McMahon who's throwing in all this fucking nonsense and all this dumb shit to happen during these segments. And it just makes it, forgettable, missable TV. But anyway, she goes over the show before Raw with the writers. You see the woman on the creative team. I know there's not many women on the creative team from what I've heard. There is one though, I think one that won she won an Emmy or something like that recently. And she's going over the segment beforehand with Alexa, asking her what she wants, do you want rhinestones on your coffee cups and all this other stuff. Alexa Bliss gives a rundown of what her talk show, what she envisions her talk show to feel like, to look like, stuff like that. She also goes over some of her material with Paul Heyman, who provides a lot of tips for the women, it seems like, between Alexa Bliss, Ronda Rousey we know about, which is pretty cool. So Heyman's not just there to deliver a promo for Brock Lesnar. He's much less of a TV character now than he is a real power not power, but a real influential force creatively for a lot of the talent, which is really, really cool to see. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what he says or the writers say. All that matters is what Vince says and what his creative direction is for a certain segment, but it's still cool to see him involved nonetheless. And she talks about, like I said, how the Moment of Bliss talking segment gives her a chance for her character to develop, and she really enjoyed it. Day 289, on Moment of Bliss, she announces that she will be competing in the Women's Royal Rumble match that weekend, day 295. She's in the Women's Rumble match for the first time, because remember, she wasn't in it in 2018. She was the Raw Women's Champion at that point, so this is her debut in the Women's Royal Rumble, which is cool. She comes down after her music hits. I think she's number 22 or something like that. She talks about how she feels the overwhelming energy from the audience. And she, most people run to the ring from the entranceway, and it was a long entryway because it was like a fucking baseball stadium. But she slowly made her way to the ring because she wanted to take it all in, that she was back in the ring for the first time in months. So it was a big moment for her, and people were very happy to see her back. She said it felt good to be back. So she's like, oh, I'm excited to see where we go from here. She does nothing. She wrestled maybe one or two more times after that in contention for the WWE Women's Tag Team titles. But she didn't wrestle at Elimination Chamber. She didn't wrestle at Fastlane. She hardly wrestled at all before WrestleMania. And we were all wondering, is she hurt? What's going on with Alexa Bliss? Yeah, she was hurt before the Rumble, but she didn't, unless they missed something here and they didn't cover something and they left something out, she wasn't hurt again. They just had no creative direction for her. So she just kept doing Moment of Bliss on day 338 of the 365 here. She does pre-tapes before Raw for WrestleMania where you go, oh, welcome to WrestleMania. Nothing new, but she found out right before Moment of Bliss that night that she did those pre-tapes because she'd be hosting WrestleMania, and she called it an awesome opportunity because she said that she didn't really have much of a creative direction going into WrestleMania, so it's better than nothing, and she'd be all over the show, so it's a win-win. It's probably better than being in the fucking throwaway women's Battle Royal on the kickoff show, which was completely missable, so she actually lucked out, which I thought was cool. She made a very good host. Day 365, it's, the weekend of WrestleMania. They're in Brooklyn days before WrestleMania. She thinks back on the wild ride that it's been leading up to WrestleMania 35, from where she started to WrestleMania 34. She does all the WrestleMania week festivities, from the Access signings to the charity stuff to being at the Hall of Fame. She brings her mom to the Hall of Fame again. She was her guest for the 2017 and 2018 ceremonies, which is weird. I know she's not with Buddy Murphy anymore, at least as far as I know from what I've heard and whatnot. I think Pro Wrestling Sheet actually reported that a while ago. But it's weird that she wouldn't bring Buddy Murphy to the Hall of Fame a few years ago. And maybe, I don't know, maybe they didn't want to make it public. I'm not exactly sure. I mean, it was public. It was on Total Divas, but whatever. She brings her mom to the Hall of Fame for the third consecutive year and says, my mom has been there through thick and thin. She's always been there. She's been my number one supporter, and that's why she felt it was necessary to bring her to the Hall of Fame as her date. She's on her way to WrestleMania, the day of WrestleMania, in the car with Nia, and Nia calls her, she calls Nia her protector. Nia Jax is like her protector. And I know they've done interviews since where they're like, oh, we're not friends anymore. We haven't been friends since the whole storyline. I think they talked about that on Total Divas. Bullshit. They just did that for storyline purposes. They're still very good friends, as seen here. Nia and Alexa Bliss have no bad blood between them. I thought they may not have been friends anymore because we don't really see them post too much with each other on social media anymore. But again, that might just be done to sell the storyline of what happened a year ago leading into WrestleMania, so who knows. But they are still friends. Alexa Bliss calls the ring her comfort zone, and she has a great time hosting WrestleMania 35. She actually brought back Hulk Hogan in the opening segment, which was awesome. Again, I was there for that, so it was really, really cool. She enjoyed running around all night, changing outfits for every single segment. Like it was a fucking, award ceremony, like it was the Emmys or some shit. So she runs around all night, does all these pre-tapes and backstage segments. She called it a wild ride. To have been where she started again at WrestleMania 34 to where she is now at WrestleMania 35. Through all the ups and downs, she calls it a pretty damn good year. She said that she has gone through a lot in her life and that she's happy that she can be the one to tell people that it always gets better. And no matter what happened in that year, whether she was injured or, not doing anything creatively, she has always found ways to be happy, which is awesome to hear. And then the aftermath is that she ended up coming back to the ring right after WrestleMania 35. And she ended up wrestling on Raw the very next night. She was out of the ring again for a little while. And then she became the number one contender to the SmackDown Women's Championship on an episode of SmackDown a few weeks ago. Went for the belt last night at Stomping Grounds and lost, as she should have. But it was still a cool, redemption story. I'm glad she didn't win. There's no real reason for a Raw wrestler to win a SmackDown Championship. But it's cool to see her go from being injured and not wrestling for a long time to now in the forefront of the women's title picture again. I would rather it have it be relegated to Raw and not SmackDown, but it's still cool it's still cool to see her, come back from all these injuries, the concussions, thinking her career was over, to now being a championship contender again. So that's awesome. But yeah, this was a very good 365. I mean, again, it's no secret that Alexa Bliss is a fucking sweetheart. She comes across like a great person, very nice person. And we kind of see that here through all the times that she gets injured and has all these great moments. Even the night that she became the Raw Women's Champion again at Money in the Bank 2018, she still found a way to make that night about someone else, her best friend Erin, who had overcome all these brain tumors. So again, it was a really cool, feel-good, heartfelt special. It runs about 49 minutes. So it's not quite an hour, not too long, not too short either. I thought it was great. Definitely check it out. It gives you a new, shows you a new side of Alexa Bliss that you've probably already seen before in various, behind the scenes videos from WWE. My daughter's a WWE superstar. We saw that with her and her family, her parents years ago. But yeah, be sure to check this out on the WWE Network, WWE 365, Alexa Bliss. So thank you guys for checking out the video. As always, be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more content. We are quickly approaching 3,000 subscribers, which is unbelievable. Thank you guys for the never-ending support. Plenty of videos going up, even if it's like random shit. So like on days where I don't have a new network and chill and stuff like that, there will be new content going up, whether it's an old Facebook video I posted on my Facebook page years ago. For example, yesterday I posted the full Road to Raw video blog. It was a daily video blog series I did on my Facebook page 5 years ago. Every day leading up to when I went to Raw in June of 2014, I posted a new video on my Facebook page, and it's led to an hour and a half, almost like an hour and 9-minute long video that I put together here on YouTube, so you can check that out from 5 years ago. I posted new episodes, not really new episodes, but full episodes of WWE EC Radio, an old radio show, a weekly wrestling podcast I did with my buddy Tommy Sharp back in 2016. All the episodes should be up now. I finished uploading those yesterday and today, so those are up now too. New episodes of Wrestle Rant Radio, old episodes, I guess I should say. Full episodes of that will be available here on YouTube as well. I stopped uploading those a while ago, but I got to get back in the habit of doing that, uploading all the old episodes before I could start uploading the new episodes, which I'm hoping to do at some point. I guess I might as well announce it here. Next Monday, July 1st, I will be bringing back Wrestle Rant. Now, it's been many, many months since I've done a new Wrestle Rant video here on the channel. There's no real reason for it. It's just that I just haven't had enough time. It's been a very busy and chaotic 2019 in the best way possible. I just took a break, an extended leave of absence from doing the Wrestle Rant videos, but they will be back starting next Monday, July 1st. So I think I might be reviewing TNA Unbreakable 2005, which for some reason I believe is the pay-per-view that hosted the AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels three-way match for the X Division title. So if so, that's a great way to be brought back for Wrestle Rant. But yeah, check that out next Monday, Wrestle Rant, coming back here on the channel. I do got to catch up on all the shit I missed from the last 6 months, but I'm hoping to bring back Wrestle Rant as a weekly show here in the channel starting next Monday. So with all that being said, guys, have a great rest of your week. I'm Grant Jason Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.